So hello again, I'm back at the yoga studio. This is going to be a relatively short little program specifically focusing on the shoulders and creating a little bit of freedom of movement and tension release via that route through the shoulders. So not just to stretch to release tension, but improving the function of the shoulder joint themselves so that they're moving a little bit more freely and easily and there's not that tendency to become stuck and tight. So you're going to need three things for this one. A rolled up blanket, so just a fairly little small rolled up blanket like we use in the studio. You'll need a strap of some description, and that can be a belt, a tie, even a tea towel will work instead of this strap. We're not using it for much at all, so just something to use as a strap. And you'll need access to a wall. We're not going to do a lot against the wall, but at some point we'll be standing up with a hand resting against it. So you need those three things. So hit pause, go and get all that stuff organised, and then when you come back, we'll get started. So now that you've got everything organised, we're going to lay back on the floor with this rolled up blanket between our shoulder blades. So that's going to be right up high between your shoulder blades. Your head will be free of it, and your lumbar spine, your lower back, will also be free of that rolled up blanket. If you want to, you can also, should have mentioned this at the start, you can also have a cushion to rest your head on beyond that. So otherwise, have a lay back with that rolled up blanket just between your shoulder blades. And let your head rest back on the floor. And let yourself relax and settle. And then we're going to focus on doing some nice, deep, slow breathing. So take a really slow breath in and just let it softly release away. And we're going to spend a couple of minutes here. So allow yourself to settle. The reason we've got that blanket between the shoulder blades is to allow a little bit of an opening across the length or the width of the collarbone there at the front. So those shoulders just start to let go and drop backwards towards the floor. Now in terms of your breathing, there's a couple of things I want you to think about while you're breathing. And it's got to do with releasing tension all the way through the body. So you know that when the diaphragm is relaxed, after you breathe out, the diaphragm sits right up high underneath or within your rib cage in a dome shape. Now when a muscle contracts, it shortens. When that happens with the diaphragm, it contracts and it flattens. And that allows a vacuum to be created in the chest cavity and air to flow in. The other thing that happens with that is that all your abdominal organs down lower here gets shifted down slightly with that contraction of the diaphragm. So there's a constant movement of those within your body. But when the diaphragm flattens and pushes down from the top in that abdominal cavity here, at the bottom there, you've got your pelvic floor muscle. Again, another sheet of muscle. And that very softly lowers down a little bit. So when you get at that pressing down from the diaphragm at the top, correspondingly that pelvic floor muscle lowers and releases a little. When the diaphragm relaxes back up into the rib cage, the pelvic floor muscle comes up a little bit as well. So there's a corresponding action. While you're breathing, I want you to see if you can feel that movement down in the pelvic floor muscle. Now that doesn't mean you need to consciously do anything with it. You don't need to try to contract it or try to relax it. Just see if you notice the feeling of the breath all the way from your diaphragm up here, all the way down to your pelvic floor at the bottom, at the other end, if you like, of your torso. So deep, slow, relaxed breaths, just noticing if you can feel the movement all the way through your torso, not just up high around the chest and the diaphragm. But just another minute or so of that. And the reason we're focusing on that is to create a release of tension through the whole of your body. It's all very well to compartmentalise things and focus just on the shoulders, But if you don't release tension elsewhere in the body, then some of that residual stuff that's left around the hips and the lower body will gradually creep up again as tension and manifest up high in the shoulders as well. So we're just starting by getting everything as soft and relaxed as you can. But just maybe another minute of deep, slow breathing. At the same time, you're letting those shoulders relax back to the floor. And you're just feeling where that breath is going in the body, where it's creating movement and release. Just another 2 or 3 nice slow breaths. After those breaths, just nice and gently bending your knees, just rolling to one side a little so you can untuck that blanket out from underneath you and just pop it to one side. And then nice and softly bringing your knees up into your chest, holding onto your knees and having a gentle rock side to side. And then circling your knees round and round. Changing direction, circle the other way. And then gently letting your feet come down onto the floor. Now you can leave the knees bent here or let the legs straighten out, whatever's nice and comfortable. You want to take hold of your strap or your belt or a tea towel, whatever you've got, and just hold it very gently above you, up towards the ceiling with your hands about shoulder width apart. And we're going to start just a simple little movement, and it's a protraction and retraction of the shoulder, or the shoulder blades to be precise. So without pressing your head into the floor, see if you can reach up a little higher so the backs of your shoulder might come off the floor there, and then let it come back down. And then just keep that going. So it's a relatively small movement through the shoulder itself. The elbows are staying straight, so you're not bending the elbows. It's not like a bench press where you're pressing a weight up towards the ceiling. It's a small movement. So the elbows stay straight and the movement happens through the shoulder itself. And this is really just starting to explore a bit of a range of movement that you have or haven't got there, and starting to mobilise the joint a little bit. So a few more like that. And then letting your shoulders settle back to the floor again. What we're going to do is very carefully float the hands back behind you towards the floor, and then all the way back to the ceiling and over forward towards your hips. And just keep that going, just a nice, smooth arc. Now what I want you to be aware of here is that there's very little movement through your back and your rib cage. It's all about the shoulder joint there. So as you take that arm back, if you get somewhere near your ear and you find your rib cage lifting to get it back a bit further, that means you're going too far. Keep the movement comfortable, and when there's no reaction from the ribs, nice and smooth and relaxed. One or two. And then relaxing, and you can pop that strap out of the way. We won't need that again. So now we're just going to do a little sideways movement through the shoulders, if you like. So just take your index finger and your thumb together and bring the tips of those together in the centre, elbows bent. Now the elbows are sticking out to each side and they're going to stay that way. What we're going to do is just carefully open up the arms, elbows stay bent, and bring them together again. So just that opening and closing movement. Beautiful. Again, nice and relaxed. If the arms don't go all the way down to touch the floor, that's okay. They don't have to. Letting your arms relax beside you again. And nice and softly, rolling over onto one elbow and just bringing yourself all the way up to kneel. Now this is where you might want to use that blanket again. If you're not comfortable kneeling, there's a couple of things you can do. You can tuck it between your bottom and your heels and sit on it that way, or you can even have it lengthways underneath your bottom and your feet out to the side a little bit. So it's really whatever or however you're most comfortable in that kneeling position. And the reason we're kneeling is because it helps have your spine a little bit more comfortably upright than it otherwise might. So we're going to do a little bit of a side bend here and get the arm moving. And the reason for including a side bend in a shoulder program is to start to address some of the tightness that might be further down the chain through that torso. So just very gently tilt over and take your right hand onto the floor and imagine you're bending over a beach ball. So you haven't tucked down beside you and jammed that shoulder down to the ground. It's a reach over into the floor. And then gently float the left arm up and over your ear and then back to your hip. And keep that movement as relaxed and as comfortable as you can. Nice, easy movements. So we're just creating a little bit of a stretch down the left-hand side and some gentle movements through that shoulder. And then just bring that left arm up where it's comfortable in space. So if that's okay right up vertically, that's good. If it's down here a little lower, that's okay too. And what we're going to do is make nice, easy circles with the hand in the air. Now make sure when I say easy circles, I mean I want it to feel easy. So if that's creating tension in the shoulder, if you're holding your breath, if you're suddenly clenching your jaw as you're doing that, then make it a little bit lower. Find the position where those circles are comfortable and easy. Then change direction. Your neck and head are just floating wherever they're most comfortable. And then bring that arm back still, and then we're just going to swivel through the length of the arm. So it's a bit of a rotation. Most of that rotation is at the forearm, but right at the end of the movement there's a little bit in the humerus, the upper arm bone in the shoulder joint. And then softly let that arm relax, bring yourself carefully back up to the centre. And then we'll do the same on the other side. So again, it's a little bend to the left. Make sure you feel like you're leaning over a beach ball. So you've kind of lifted and bent over, not just crunched downwards. So it's a little stretch in this right side. And then float that right arm over and back to the hip. Again, smoothly, nice and gentle. That's it. And then, like we did on the other side, bring that arm up to a comfortable position and start to circle it round and round, or forward and back almost to the circle directions. Again, it wants to be easy, it wants to be relaxed and gentle. And if that means it's right down here when you're doing those circles, that's okay too. Change direction, circle the other way. These simple movements tend to highlight where there might be a little bit of tightness, a little bit of soreness, maybe an injury that you didn't know you had, maybe a little bit of dysfunction that you didn't know you had in one shoulder compared to the other. And then bring that arm still, and we'll do that little swivel. So you're turning the palm back behind you, and then all the way forward and around as much as it can go. So you've got that rotation happening through the lower arm or the forearm, and then at the end of the movement, that upper arm bone follows and rotates a little bit too. One or two more. And then let that arm relax and just ease yourself carefully back up to the centre. And just give those shoulders a little bit of a wriggle and a roll, a bit of a shake off. Excellent. Now we're going to do another little side to side movement through the shoulders. I'll start slowly because there's a little bit of switching the palms around as we go. So we're going to start with both palms facing up, elbows bent, and your hands are just in front of your chest there. Then we're going to keep the elbows bent, draw them back, and then when we come back to the front, the opposite hand is on top. We go back again, opposite hand on top. We'll do two more. And then we turn the palms downward. Go back, opposite hand on top. So each time you come to the front, you're swapping the hand that's on top. And every four, we turn the palms the other way. And we're going to speed that up a little bit. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, palms up. 1, 2, 3, 4, palms down. 1, 2, 3, 4, palms up. 1, 2, 3, 4, palms down. 1, 2, 3, 4, and relax. Beautiful. It's just getting a bit of movement into those shoulders. And now we're going to come forward. We're going to come off these feet and do a couple of lunges. So if you're sitting on the blanket, untuck that, pop that out of the way. We're done with that now. And we're going to come into a careful lunge with a bit of a twist and a side bend. So starting upright on your knees, you want to bring your right foot forward onto the floor, out beyond the front of your knee there. So you want to see the whole top of your foot out past your knee. Then we're going to have your hands just comfortably on your hips, and we're going to slide that top thigh forward, stopping when it's directly above your ankle. Now, if you're wondering why I'm doing a lunge in a program that's about the shoulders, it's the same principle of releasing that tension all through the chain of the body. We need to release a little bit of hip tension so that there's nothing residual left there to carry on upwards to the shoulders once we've finished. So we're just holding here and breathing. See if you can come back to that breath we did at the start, where you're feeling the breath moving all the way down through your torso and back again. So there's a sense of pelvic floor being supple, not holding tight. Then, while we're here, we're going to do a careful little twist, and it is only small. We're going to bring the hands to the centre of your chest, and then very carefully turn to the right, so towards that front knee. Beautiful. Keep breathing. So you can see I haven't turned very far at all, it's just a very small little shift. We're going to stay in the lunge, come back to the centre, just let your hands hang nice and loosely beside you, and then we're going to have a little side bend to the left. So just gently let that left hand come down, it might just brush the floor. Very good. Keep breathing. Then come carefully back up to the centre, ease yourself back out of that lunge and bring that knee onto the floor. Perfect. So opposite side. So left foot out flat on the floor there. Again, you want to see the top of your foot past your knee to start with. Hands onto your hips. Your spine's going to stay comfortably upright, and just slide that front thigh forward. Stop when the ankle is directly underneath your knee. Nice soft shoulders. You haven't poked your chest or tummy forward, your spine is still comfortably upright. And again, come back to that breath. Feel the diaphragm. See if you can feel the effect of that breath all the way through your entire torso, not just the top half. And carefully bring both hands into the centre of your chest. And we do just a little twist to the left this time. Keep the breath coming. And the reason I haven't changed hands or use the arms to swivel us round into that twist is because I want just that little twist, just the emphasis through the thoracic spine, the part of the spine that is responsible for twisting. And come carefully back to the front. Just gently let your arms hang softly beside you, and this time it's a little side bend to the right, and again the hand might just brush the floor, but don't lean on it. We're wanting the torso to hold itself in space. Another few breaths. And then carefully come back to the centre. Ease yourself back out of that lunge. Bring that knee onto the floor and just have a little stretch back. So take your bottom back to your heels. Walk the hands out nice and long in front. Let your head rest on the floor if you can. Seat bones pressing back towards your heels, so it's a nice active stretch. And then collapse and let yourself soften. So you can leave the arms resting where they are, or you can bring your hands under your head. Or you can even come right back to pose of a child with your hands beside your feet, head resting on the floor. And then nice and softly, hands come in underneath your shoulders on the floor then, just softly unrolling. Come all the way up, give those shoulders a bit of a roll back. And then we're going to stand up and do a little bit of stretches for the shoulders. So unroll, come all the way up to stand. Give the legs, shoulders a little bit of a shake and a wriggle, whatever you need. And then we're going to come up to the wall and stand with one palm against the wall with the arm out straight. So my palms are upwards, fingertips are pointing upwards, hand is flat on the wall and the arms out straight there. And just have a nice even balance underneath your feet. Now the hand's going to stay exactly where it is. We're going to take a careful step forward with one foot. And you can see I've left my hand on the wall behind me. And then step back. Step forward again. Doesn't matter if it's the same foot or the opposite one. And step back. Step forward again. Hand doesn't move, it's still flat on the wall. And step back. Step forward. And this time we're going to stay there. So bring your feet comfortable leave that hand flat on the wall. And you might feel a little bit of a nerve type stretch with this one. So it'll feel a little bit different to just a muscular stretch, because we are asking that medial nerve, or that carpal nerve it becomes as it comes down towards the end of the wrist, where we're asking that to travel through the connective tissue and have a bit of a stretch in itself. And then softly step back so you're level, and give that arm a little bit of a swing and a rest. Now, we're going to bring that hand back onto the wall again, so same position, arm straight, palm flat on the wall. Instead of stepping the feet forward this time, we're going to step the hand backwards and then turn the fingers to point backwards behind you, so the fingers are pointing back. And again, you might feel that sense of a nerve stretch. And then carefully see if you can turn the fingers to point downwards towards the floor. Now when you do that, make sure you don't lift the shoulder towards your ear. That shoulder wants to stay relaxed, and it's a swivel, it's a rotation that actually happens at your forearm. And gently see if you can swivel that hand so the fingers point back up towards the ceiling. And relax, give that arm a swing. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So swing around, opposite hand on the wall. Again, palms flat on the wall, fingertips pointing upwards. Just take a careful step forward, leaving that hand behind on the wall. And then step back. Again, step forward and step back. Stepping forward again. Stepping back. Last time, stepping forward. We're going to stay here. So bring the other foot forward as well. It's settled on the feet, fingertips pointing upwards towards the ceiling. You're just going to keep having that stretch. Now come back to that breathing again. Nice, gentle, easy breathing all the way through your torso. So don't breathe up high into the shoulders here, even though we're stretching and working on them. Breathe with the diaphragm, feel the movement as low down into the body as you can. Then gently step back in line with your hand again. That arm needs a bit of a rest and a swing, give it a bit of a swing. Then bring the hand back onto the wall again. And this time, instead of stepping the feet forward, we step the hand backwards on the wall and then turn the fingers out to point behind you, so fingers pointing out. And again, come back to that breath, that deep torso breathing involving the top and the bottom of your abdominal cavity, for want of a better description. And make sure you don't lift your shoulders up to your ears as you do this next move. Turn the fingertips downward to point towards the floor. Make sure you haven't hugged shut. Shoulders are still softly away from your ears. You're not forcing them down. You're just not actively pulling them up. Another few breaths. Then turn those fingertips upwards to point towards the ceiling. And relax. Let that arm have a bit of a shake. Bit of a wiggle. Okay, now we're actually going to do a bit of a warrior, a lunging pose. So again, you think, well, what does warrior have to do with shoulders? What we're doing is, again, releasing some tension from the hips, the waist, through the rib cage, and therefore up into the shoulders. And we're going to encourage some arm movements with that as well. So take your feet out nice and wide. And then we're going to turn the right foot to point to the right and square that left foot around a little. Now nice and gently, you just bend that right knee, stopping it directly above the ankle. Beautiful. Now while we're here, just have your hands onto your hips, and we're going to do a careful little tilt over towards that thigh, that right thigh, and back to the centre. Very good. Now this is a tilt of the pelvis on top of the leg bones. It's not just bending your shoulders and bending your spine to the right. It's actually a tilt at the hip joints, the articulating joints, the joints that are involved in this movement, if you like, in creating this movement, are your hips. Very good. Now the next time you tilt over, just take that right hand to the outside of your knee, and you can just rest it there with a comfortable pressure. So the knee is pressing back just a tiny bit, not too much, not so you're working hard, but just so that that leg stays stable. And then we're going to bring this left arm up over the ear and down to the hip, just like we did before in that side bend. And then bring that hand up somewhere close to vertical. Do those little circles again, round and round. Now remember, if that's a struggle to do that up high, do it down low, do it out, even if it's right down near the hip, that's okay. Whatever feels comfortable and easy on the shoulder joint is what's important. Back the other way. And then bring that arm up still, and we're going to swivel. So turning the palm backwards and forwards. And then, next time that palm is turned backwards, we're going to bend the elbow, bring the arm down around the back of your waist, have a little bit more of a tilt. And then carefully come back up to the centre and relax. Very good. All right, we're going to turn the feet the opposite way. So left foot points at that left wall. The right one might square around a little this time. We're going to bend that left knee, and again stop with the knee as I fall over. Stop with the knee directly above the ankle. Hands on your hips to start with. Then spine stays upright, and it's the pelvis, the movement of the pelvis on the hip bone that creates that little tilt over and back. It's hard to do. You want to bend your back because you want to get to that position that I'm telling you to get into. But the purpose of it is to get the movement at the pelvis and the hips. So if that means you only go this far, and it's a tiny little movement, that's okay. Make sure it's not just your head too. Moving the head's not much help with the hips. One or two more. Next time you tilt it over, we're going to take that left hand to the outside of the knee or the thigh there. Just a comfortable pressure to remind that leg to stay stable. We're going to bring the right arm up to the ceiling and then maybe over your ear and down again. Soft, easy movements. That's it. And bringing that arm to a comfortable position, little circles. Now you know if you're in the wrong spot with this in terms of degree of difficulty, if you suddenly find yourself holding your breath or struggling to breathe. So if that's the case, or if you're clenching your jaw, take it down lower. And it might be different, one arm to the other. So change direction now. And then bring that arm still and do a little swivel, backwards and forwards. And then next time the palm's facing backwards, let the arm come down, the elbow bends, and you take the back of the hand around the back of your waist. Another couple of breaths. And then come all the way back up to the centre and relax. And then gently walk your feet in, give those legs a little bit of a shake out. And then come down all the way and have a comfortable sit on the floor. So bringing your soles of your feet together. Hold on to your feet. Have a nice big rock, right from one knee to the other. And coming softly into the centre and just sitting however you're most comfortable sitting. Now that might be with crossed legs, might be kneeling, might be with legs out straight. Doesn't really matter. As long as your back is comfortably upright, shoulders can let go and relax a little, and you can close your eyes. And we're going to do just a gentle neck release with a focus on softness and ease of movement. So with your eyes closed, imagining the infinity symbol in front of you in the air. So that's that figure 8 on its side. And then slowly start to trace that shape in the air with your nose. Now you want to make that shape quite large, but do it nice and slowly and smoothly. And what we're after here is complete comfort and ease of movement. So if you're hitting at a spot that's twinging or pinching, don't go back over it, work around it. And if you're even finding there's too many clunks or clicks or grindings or just too much noise in the neck, change the movement so that that's not happening. So it's soft, easy and fluid. And if you find you get a little bit dizzy doing this, just slow the movement down. Make sure your shoulders are soft. And you might start to feel that your head becomes a little bit heavier. Starts to feel a little bit looser on the top of your neck. And you're using absolute minimal effort to create that movement. And then softly coming back into the centre. Just taking a second to have another breath there. And then very gently laying back onto the floor again. You can use a blanket or cushion if you want to, but you don't need to. Just have a soft lay back. Let yourself settle into the floor. And just notice what you're feeling through your body. Notice what may be a little bit heavier, maybe resting a little bit easier into the floor than it was before. And again, come back to that breath, that full torso breathing, if you like, feeling the movement, not just at the top of your abdominal cavity in the diaphragm, but also maybe feeling it in the pelvic floor as well. Now you may or may not feel that, don't get too stressed about that. But the idea is deep, full breaths that involve the whole of your body. And you can stay just laying and breathing like that for as long as you like. I'm going to sign off. Hopefully that has created a change or a shift in your shoulders, hopefully a little sense of release. There'll be some areas that have felt like that worked a little bit as well. But thank you very much. Om Shanti, and I shall see you all soon. Thank you. See ya.